What up, everybody? Raising Kanan Season 3, Marvin Thomas is under investigation by the FBI as their lead suspect as the leader of a drug ring that resulted in several shootouts with the Italian mafia at the end of Season 2. The feds believe that Marvin is the boss because they are able to connect Marvin to the Italians through Marco Baselli, the son of Sal Baselli, who Marvin also killed at the beginning of Season 3. They were able to connect these dots because Marco was killed in the hit on Tony Deep, and Tony Deep was also the informant who got Marvin locked up at the end of Season 1. Tanner told Howard that a 2-year-old could put this together. And Howard, in no type of way since finding out that Marvin is under investigation, has tried to use his influence to point the feds in another direction. Then to make matters worse, the feds say they can also link Marvin to the 40s and Baisley projects from Season 2. And Howard has no plans on using his influence to get Marvin out of this jam. Matter of fact, he thinks it's a good idea to try to pin the whole operation on Marvin to get the feds to stop looking into him, Rock, and Kanan. And now we know from the Raising Kanan Season 3 trailer that things are going to come to a head with the FBI and Marvin, because we see Howard telling Rock that they're coming for us. And this is most likely talking about Marvin, because Howard is also being questioned by Tanner in the trailer if he has any connection to Marvin Thomas. Tanner tells Howard if he's connected to Marvin Thomas, then he's connected to organized crime. So today, since the feds are coming for Marvin in the finale, I'm going to look into the storyline of Marvin escaping from the raid and fleeing town. So when the feds come for Marvin, he'll see them pulling up and know they're about to raid his house. So Marvin's going to have the mindset that he would rather go out shooting with the feds than spend the rest of his life locked up in the pen. Keep it in mind that Marvin has already done a prison bid when he was younger, and when the feds came for him that time, he put up no fight at all because he was so high he asked them if they were there to buy a quarter. But this time, Marvin will be ready for them. Marvin grabs 2 gats and waits in a room on the side of the house, farthest away from the front and back door. Possibly that would be Juke's room. And luckily for Marvin, Juke is not going to be at home when they come for him, or otherwise, he might have had to let them take him into custody to make sure that Juke wouldn't get hit in any potential crossfire. But the feds come to do the raid while Juke is at school. So Marvin waits until the feds bust in his house from the front and the back, and at that time he jumps out the side window and takes off. Right after jumping out the window, Marvin blasts the 2 cops who are still outside and then sprints down the street before the rest of the cops who went into his house could come out and stop him. Once Marvin's in the clear, he's able to carjack somebody, steal their car, and take off before the police would catch him. Then, of course, the police block off the whole area, similar to what they did after Howard was shot in Season 1. But it's too late. Marvin is already gone. Then once Marvin makes it to the outskirts of the city, where there isn't a strong police presence, he hits up his boy Demo to come pick him up and get him out of town. He calls Demo instead of Rock, first off not wanting to bring her into it, and also knowing that the feds may also have eyes on her. Then Demo takes Marvin to lay low in a hotel in Washington, D.C. And Marvin also arranges it with Demo before he goes back to New York to get the message to Rock when he gets back into the city of how to get a hold of him. Then at this point, Marvin would have to change his name and take on a new identity because he would most definitely be on the America's Most Wanted list. He would also have to get rid of his high top and shave off his goatee and either grow out a beard or have no facial hair at all. Whatever he would have to do to change his look. Then once Marvin's able to get settled in D.C., he would need to get back to work. A lot like Tommy Egan, Marvin doesn't know any other life. Like he told Rock in Season 1, he's a gangster, and he does gangster. But luckily for Marvin, he does have a potential connection in the Baltimore and D.C. area. Keep in mind that in Season 2, we were introduced to Tremont Abraham, who was supposed to be Rock's distros in Baltimore and D.C., but they cut Rock out, going straight through Juliana. Now keep in mind how Joaquin just deaded Ronnie business in Episode 9. Joaquin could potentially do the same thing with Tremont and Abraham, making them step down as Connect and put Marvin in that position instead, and making them go back to being distros like they were under Cartier for Reed. This could potentially be a move that Rock makes to set her brother up with Joaquin, since she did him a favor of taking out his cousin, who he definitely couldn't trust, and most likely would have ended up coming for Joaquin eventually also. And let me pause for a minute while I'm on this whole Marvin to DC thing. If this were to actually happen, this could potentially branch off into its own spinoff based on Marvin's life after he leaves New York, similar to Force and the Tommy Egan spinoff. And since Marvin is one of the most beloved characters in the Power universe, I'm sure that spinoff would also be a hit. And also give him more juice to Raising Kanan, because we could then begin crossovers with Marvin's series. Getting me back to Marvin dealing with Abraham and Tremont. Once he starts working with them for a while and learns their whole system, then of course he would have to cancel Christmas on the both of them and bring in other people to take their place, since they've already shown their disloyalty. Getting me to, is there any facts from the original Power series that Marvin could potentially be in Washington, D.C.? And of course there is. That's the whole reason why I chose him to go there, other than the potential Tremont and Abraham storyline. Keep in mind when Kanan was recovering at Juke's house in none other than Washington, D.C., a clue by itself that Juke might have moved to D.C. to be closer to her father. But Candy told Kanan, "You're the one who told Jukebox to move to D.C. and embrace who she really is." Again, out of all the places in the world that Jukebox could have went to, why would Kanan have suggested that she move to Washington, D.C.? That's because I think there's a good chance that D.C. is where Marvin will end up. Now also keep in mind that Kanan went to D.C. several times throughout Power once he got out of prison. He almost spent more time in D.C. than he did in New York at the time, and was even planning on moving to D.C. after he killed Juke, but came back to New York to handle some business when Dre and Cristobal's men tried killing him, causing Kanan to stay in New York and link back up with Ghost and Tommy. So Uncle Marvin could have potentially been Kanan's DC connection OG Power. Then also keep in mind how Kanan went out at the hands of the police, and Tariq was able to take him out that way because Kanan had already told him what the play was if the cops were to ever come for him again. I also think there's a chance the reason why Kanan had this whole plan in the first place, other than not wanting to go back to prison, is because he knew his uncle did the same thing and got away. So Kanan probably felt like if it came down to it, he would win in a shootout against the cops the same way Marvin did. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.